Hello and welcome to the Knit and Grace podcast. This is episode 15. Hello and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you are new here, my name is Mia and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And today I bring you the monthly podcast episode. So everything that I've been working on over the last month, what I'm currently working on, and my plans for the upcoming month ahead. And yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get started. As I'm filming this, it is December 2nd, so if you're seeing this when it goes live, it'll be December 3rd, and it is the start of the holiday season for us in our house, so there's a lot to do, and we've been pretty busy in the last few weeks celebrating Thanksgiving here in the US, so actually, not a lot of knitting has happened, so hopefully today will be a little bit of a quicker episode, but I definitely have tons to share with you all, so I will go ahead and jump right in. And of course, we can't get started without talking about what I'm wearing today, which I am wearing my Heirloom quilt cardigan. And so I won't go into tons of detail on this because I have talked about this project to death at this point, I feel like, but I will insert pictures of me wearing it here in case you have not seen those yet. But this is a pattern by Katrin Seeberger that was released over the summer, and I knit this as my Rhinebeck 2023 sweater, and I knit mine in various colors of unspun yarn from Onarkia called KnitandGrace, which is one of my favorite unspun yarns. So yeah, I figured since I didn't wear it last time, I would wear it today so that you all could see it live here on the podcast. So I only have two finished objects to share with you all today, and they are both accessories. I think the last month, I don't have too much to share in terms of, FOs and whips and whatnot. And I think part of it is the last month has been pretty hectic. We've had the holidays here in the US. We had Thanksgiving. Work has been pretty hectic. And then also I am working on a secret sample. So there's one thing that I can't show you all. But I do have two finished objects. And the first one that I have to share with you is actually a finished object from October, but I didn't share it in that podcast because even though I'd gone live by the time the podcast episode went up, when I filmed the podcast, the pattern had not gone live yet, and it was a secret test knit. And these are the Bearberries socks by Weechin of the Petite Knitter, and I test knit these socks for her. And yeah, I absolutely love them. So these socks I knit up in woolen twine, the Corriedale sock base, which Eula is no longer carrying. She has replaced this base with the Ovis sock base, and actually these test socks were a secret test for the festive box pattern that she released, which actually I did purchase a festive box, but it's not in my acquisitions because it's currently stuck in customs. But yeah, so I was really happy that I was able to use some of Eula's old yarn. And this actually, the main color here is called Mince Pie. This is from Eula's 2022 festive box. And then the contrast color that I use is her Corriedale sock and the color Porridge. And so yeah, these are super lovely. I've worn them twice, although I try not to wear them too much because I knew I hadn't shown them on the podcast yet. But in terms of the sock themselves, I knit this up in the 7th size or the 9-inch circumference sock. And I did get gauge on the recommended needle, which is a US 1, or let me see, I think it's 2.25. Yeah, 2.25 millimeter needles. I was actually using some waste yarn, or not waste yarn, but some scraps of the color Porridge that I had from another pair of socks that I don't plan on finishing. And so I actually, the nice thing about this is it features an afterthought heel. So if you've knit all over colorwork socks before, it can get a little difficult to transition your gauge from sort of the leg of the sock to the foot of the sock unless there's an afterthought heel. So there is that feature in here. And so what I did was I knit my first tube, right? So essentially you knit a tube, you close it up, and then you add in the heel. I knit my first tube and I weighed the amount of the main color that I had left. And I realized that I wouldn't have enough to make the heel also in the contrasting color because I did do, or I wouldn't have been able to do a mismatched pair anyway because I didn't have enough of the Porridge. But with Weechan's patterns, you can either do a mismatched pair or a matching pair, and I chose to do the matching pair. And then ultimately I did use the main color for the heel, which I believe ended up being, let me see, about 3.8 grams for each of the heels, which I was definitely right because after I finished both of my sock tubes before adding in the heel, I only had about 4 grams of the Porridge left. So those were these socks and I absolutely love them. And like I mentioned, I did order the festive box from Eula and that is coming in the mail. So I think that I'm going to have to make myself another pair with the Ovis sock base. And the second and last FO that I have to show you all today is another test knit, and it is another accessory. And this is the Autumn Tales Cowl by Ozetta. And I will also insert pictures of me wearing it, but let's see if you can get in there. And it has this really pretty braid detail along the sides and the bottom. And yes, I'll insert pictures of me wearing it so you can see how this is modeled. But this was a quick test that I signed up for to do for Haley of Ozetta. I had been following along with her Autumn Tales shawl that she released, and I was so close to signing up for it and I didn't sign up for it, and I regretted not signing up for it. So when I saw that she put out the test call for the cowl, I needed to sign up for it, especially since I did have all of the yarn in stash. And so for this pattern, I use Plotulopi in the color 1038, held with Drops Kid Silk in the color 20. And so the 1038 of Plotulopi is called Ivory Beige, and the 20 of the Drops Kid Silk is called Light Beige. And yeah, I followed the pattern exactly as it calls for. I didn't make any modifications. I did have to go down 2 needle sizes, which I do usually have to go down a needle or 2 when I'm knitting Haley's patterns. And so I went down 2 needle sizes to a US 6 instead of a US 8, which is what she used to knit hers on in order to get gauge. and I knit the second size. And so yeah, this was a really quick knit. I think I finished it in 3 days. Let's see, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 days. So I cast on November 18th and I bound off on November 21st, and I absolutely love it. The only difference, or the only thing that I did different really, was for the braid. When you do the braid, it's a crocheted on applied braid, and so when you do the braid, she does say that you should hold the mohair along with the unspun yarn. And so I actually chose to not do that for 2 reasons. So one was I was using a mohair that had less yardage than the one that she used. So I was scared that I would have run out, and I probably would have, because I only had like 1 gram left once all was said and done. But also the Drops Kid Silk, the light beige, actually has a very light pink tint to it, which is actually why I love it. And so I actually wanted to have a little bit of contrast between the main fabric and the braid to give it a little bit more interest. And so I think that that turned out really well. And I've already used this, so it's really great, you know, when you're wearing a coat that, you know, maybe is more close fitted, or like a trench coat and you can't wear something bulky underneath, or even like, you could actually just layer this under like another sweater. So like if you're someone who has a really cold neck, or you can like layer this under a sweater if you wanted to go for a hike, or under a sweatshirt or something like that, like a hoodie. I think that would be perfect. So it's a really great little accessory, and I'm really excited to have finished this one. As I'm recording, I realized that I forgot to mention 2 finished objects. So I'm going to record this and splice it back into the right part of the video. But I do have 2 more finished objects that are not knitting or crochet related, but are fiber arts related, and or I should say that are not knitting or crochet, but are fiber arts related, and they are knitting related. And so I wanted to share that with you. And so the 2 projects that I finished were actually 2 sets of town bags. So this is my most recent one, and I just finished this one last night. I still have to put in the cord for the drawstring, because it does have a drawstring. And so this is the town bag by Grainline Studios, or I should say the individual sewing pattern has been released by Grainline Studio in collaboration with Fringe Supply Co. When they went out of business, I believe Grainline bought the rights to the patterns and has been releasing the bag patterns as independent at-home sewing patterns. And so I have featured my personal one on the channel quite a few times, and so I did sew up 2 more. So this yellow one that I've just finished up is going to a friend as a Christmas gift, and then I actually sewed up another one, which I'll insert a picture of here, which was the giveaway prize for the Line Brand Fisherman's Wool giveaway that I hosted. And so that one has since been received by the giveaway winner, and hopefully is being enjoyed by her as well. So now we're going to move on to the works in progress, and I have 3 works in progress that I can show you, and 1 that I cannot because it is a sample. And we will go ahead and jump right in. The first one that I have, I'm holding in this lovely Pajauta Makes bag that Cece of Stitch Witchcraft gifted me for my birthday, and I absolutely love. And I thought it went really well with the fact that it matches my whip. So whenever possible, I do like to match my whip to my project bag. And I will show you what this looks like. It is currently on the needles. I do have it just on regular circular needles. This is the back. This is the front. And I want to show you what that looks like. And so this is how much I have. And if you see that my sleeves are blending in, that's not an optical illusion. It is the same color as the main color for my cardigan. And so this is called the Directional Pullover by Amy Sher. And this is a pattern that is in testing and I believe is going to be released in February of the new year, because I do know that it's due in January. And yeah, so this is a top-down V-neck pullover. And the reason why it's called the directional pullover is actually, and I'll insert a picture of Amy's pullover here. It features this sort of chevron color work on the body and the sleeves of the pullover, and it is a more relaxed kind of sweatshirt style fitting garment. So it is a top-down drop shoulder, and I saw it and I absolutely fell in love with it. I was like, this is the fit that I'm looking for. This is like a great everyday sweater. You can dress it up, you can dress it down, but I don't want to knit the color work, at least not at the moment. And so I did reach out to Amy and I said, hey, you know, I'm really interested in testing this for you, but I'm not really feeling the color work at the moment. Would you mind if I knit one just in one color? And she was perfectly fine with that. And so yeah, so I went ahead and cast on. So again, this is Nutiden and this is the color Gillingroa, which is that same color that I used for the main color of my cardigan. And what to say, so I am knitting this one in the 4th size, or size D. I believe there are 11 or 12 sizes in the pattern, and of course I'll give many more details once the pattern's actually released and I feature it here on the channel. But I believe it's either 11 or 12 sizes, but I'm knitting the 4th size, and I am adding in 2-inch bust darts. And yeah, this is my first test for Amy, and the way that they run the test process is pretty, you know, not necessarily casual, but the pattern's like completely tech edited, completely formatted. You're pretty much getting the final version of the pattern as a tester, and there's a Slack group, and it's kind of more like, you know, kind of like a knit along of sorts. And so there are some fun folks in the knit along, or in the test group, I should say, and I'm really having fun doing that. I did make a lot of progress really quickly on this pattern, and then I put it down because I needed to steam it and I wanted to take some fit photos. And then I started knitting on my sample, which is going to be due in the beginning of January. So I think that between this one and my sample, those are going to be like my 2 main projects that I'm going to be knitting on this month. So hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to keep knitting on the body or if I'm going to switch to do a sleeve first. So I'm going to do some kind of like milestone knitting with my various whips so that I can make sure that nothing kind of languishes and takes too much of a back burner. But the second whip that I have to show you all is also another Amy pattern, and this is one that you will have seen on the channel quite a few times already if you are not a recent viewer. And that is the building block drop. And let's see, I've split for the front and back already, but I still have it on one long cord. I have to like separate my cords because I actually split while I was on my commute. So here we go. Let's see. So this is the building block drop. It is not much to see right now at the moment. It is worked bottom up. It is a drop shoulder design. And yeah, what to say about this one? I am knitting this one to be more cropped than either of my other 2 versions that I have of this one. I am working the split hem, and I am actually knitting this one a size smaller than my other two. So I think my other two I knit the size E, or the 5th size, and this time I'm knitting the size D. And so this one I'm specifically knitting to layer with my dresses in the fall, winter, and spring. And so that's why I'm knitting this one much more cropped, much more close fitting, so that it's not like I'm not super baggy and, you know, sort of looking a little frumpy when I'm layering my dresses. So as I mentioned, I did split the front and back, but I've only gotten just a few inches in. Let me see if you can see that. It's not very easy to see, but I have a progress keeper here from Maria of Forest Charms. And the yarn that I'm using, I should probably say that, is Lucky Tweed by Kelborn Woolens. This is yarn that I featured here on the channel before. If you are a returning viewer, you may recognize it. I actually used this yarn to start a test knit, which I have since frogged, which actually you will see in a couple of weeks. But I wanted to reclaim this yarn. I was no longer going to keep working on that project, so I wanted to reclaim the yarn and knit it into something else. So again, I am knitting the Building Blocks Drop by Amy Sher in the 4th size. I am knitting this one still on size 8 needles. Let me see. No, this one I am knitting on size 7 needles, so US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needles as my main needle. And for this one I also am omitting the bust darts because I do actually want a little bit more of a cropped look in the front than the back, because I will be layering this one with dresses. So really exciting there. And then the last whip that I have to show you all, this was a hibernating whip until Advent season started yesterday. And I'm actually holding it in this really pretty bag, which came in my 2023 Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent calendar. And so this was one of the goodies that was part of the calendar. So I thought it was only fitting that it would hold the blanket that I'm knitting up using the yarns from the calendar in here. And so if you are a returning viewer, you will have already seen this also, but this is the Woodland Ripple blanket. Let's see, this is what it looks like. And so I have just added the first 2 days of the Advent, which the first one was this lavender color, and she called it frosting. And then day 2 is this blue color, and she called it nightstand. And so this is a crochet project, and this is going to be a little bit of a long-term project. So I think that this will probably be done after 3 years. So we'll see how it's measuring after my 2nd year, which this is my 2nd year doing the Sweet Sparrow Advent. But I just, based on how much length I got from the first 24 minis, I think that 3 sets will be enough to make a lap blanket. I'm not meaning for this to be a massive blanket. I'm just meaning for it to be a lap blanket. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. I don't think that I said who the pattern is by. And if I'm completely honest, I don't remember off the top of my head. So the pattern is by Lucy of Attic 24, and again the pattern's called Woodland Ripple. I am using a size E crochet hook or 3.5 millimeter needle, and again I am using the Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent calendar. So I used 2024 for my 2022 for my first 24 stripes. I'll be crocheting in the 2023 stripes, and then next year hopefully I'll be finishing it off with the advent calendar that Julie releases next year. Okay, so I had to change the battery on the camera, so I think my angle changed a little bit. But we will get on with the acquisitions. And so I have two for the month, one being my advent that I just alluded to, and actually I'm going to have a special festive acquisitions episode that goes out later this month. So I will actually share the details of the advent calendar in that episode, so keep a lookout for that one if that is something that you're interested in. But other than that, I just have one acquisition for the month, and it is some Nutiden, and so this is the color that I purchased, and so this is color called Lenarva, and it's a medium gray brown, and it's a really lovely brown, and like with all their colors, there's just so much depth of color in there. And so yeah, so this I purchased when they had their last shop update, and this one was from a couple shop updates ago, so it was still in stock, I guess. And it was just one of those situations where I specifically saw a pattern that is being knit up right now by a designer in a very similar color as this one, and I know that if time allows I want to sign up for the test knit, but even if I don't sign up for the test knit, I do want to knit the pattern. And so I went ahead and bought 600 grams of Nutiden in the color Lenarva so that I can be prepared whenever that pattern is released out into the world, either for testing or, you know, actually goes live. And so yeah, so that kind of wraps up the main part of the podcast. We can go ahead and talk about December making plans as well as December plans here on the channel. So what I plan on working on this month is, obviously I have a test knit that I need to make progress on, and I have a sample knit that I need to make progress on as well. I also am going to be having a little, or not having, but I'm joining in on a little knit along with a few friends. So Tashi of Stitches and Starlight, Haley of the Knit Weekend, and Casey of Young Folk Knits. The four of us are having a little informal knit along for the Artist Shawl by Natasha Hornby. And I know that there's an official knit along that's going to start in the new year, but we all saw this pattern and immediately fell in love with it, and we just decided that we're going to cast on a few weeks early. I think we're going to cast on the week of December 11th or something like that, and we're just having a casual, just, you know, knit the same project together kind of group, and, you know, we have a group chat going and all that kind of stuff. So really excited about that. And then in terms of my December filming schedule, I think this is one of those situations where, what's the idiom? It's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch or something like that, right? And I think that originally I had mentioned that I was going to plan on doing Vlogmas, but there are just a few things going on in not even my personal life actually, because the Vlogmas content that I had planned for the channel were very much around my moving. So it was gonna be like a lot of like organization and like how I organize my stuff and like kind of show you guys all that kind of stuff. So I am going to have more videos out than normal, but I'm not going to have my weekly vlog. So if you were around for Vlogmas last year, you know that I had one sit down video and one weekly vlog per week. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have one sit down video per week. And what I mean by sit down is kind of primarily me sitting and talking to the camera. There might be some other stuff going on because I do have a few things up my sleeves that I have planned for you all to see as part of my December content. So you can expect to see a video from me every Sunday on my normal time for the month of December. and I will give you a little sneak peek into next week's video. And next week we're actually going to explore some of my very old knits. So as we're moving, I am going through all of the totes and the boxes and everything that we have, and figuring out, you know, where to purge and where to donate and all of that. So I have a big tote full of old knits that I'm going to go through, and I'm going to share some of those projects with you and ultimately decide what I want to do with them. So if that sounds like it's your cup of tea, definitely stick around for next week. But you know, like always, make sure that you're not only subscribed to the channel, but you do click on the bell icon to make sure you're notified to all the videos, so that way you know what I'm posting on a weekly basis on Sunday. And I hope that you all enjoy the extra content in the month of December, even though I won't include a vlog. I might include like a little bit of a vlog maybe in my January podcast of everything that we've gotten up to in December, but quite honestly, excuse me, frog in my throat. We've had some major kind of events happen at work, which means that my December is no longer going to be as sort of quiet as I was hoping for it to be, especially since I am moving. So I'm just not going to add the extra pressure on myself to also put out Vlogmas content, because while, you know, it's pretty easy to film myself day to day kind of thing, the editing on those videos, even though they're not very long, can be pretty tedious. So yeah, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my numbers, and I will put them up on the screen as well, because I did have a viewer mention that it would be helpful to see the numbers as well as hear them. And so yeah, so my November numbers in terms of so this is going to be any yarn that I purchased, as well as any yarn that I destashed would be subtracted from that total, which I actually did manage to destash some yarn this past month. So total in was 740 grams, or 4,269 yards. Total out, so out is only counting projects that I finished within that month, which this month I only counted one because the socks were actually part of my last month's totals. So total out for this month was a little low at 174 grams, or 837 yards. And so that gives me a total positive into my stash of 566 grams, or 3,432 yards. So year to date, again, this is another situation where I probably shouldn't have counted my chickens, because I am a little bit in the positive now, but we'll see how we end up the year. So we have 9,869 grams, or a total of 34,551 yards. Total out, we have 8,827 grams, or 32,615 yards. So that gives me a total positive into my stash of the year of 1,042 grams, or 1,936 yards. So we are a little bit in the positive. We'll see if we can get back to the negative after all of our December knitting, fingers crossed. But in any case, even if we don't get back down into the negative, I think that having that little bit of a positive impact into my stash for the year is going to be absolutely amazing. And like I mentioned, I do have that festive box coming, so that hasn't been counted into here yet. So there are 200 grams of yarn in that one. So, you know, we're going to be cutting it close. We're going to be cutting it close for sure. But I think that is everything that I have to share with you all today. A much shorter episode than normal, but again, I think that I have been doing a lot of knitting. It's just I've been doing some knitting on bigger projects, and then also, you know, a project that I wasn't able to show you all. As always, please be sure to do all the things. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Also, if you enjoy everything that I do here, there are so many ways that you can support me. You can share my videos, you can share my content, but also I have my Ko-Fi link as well as my Ravelry wish list linked in the description below. So if you want to buy me a coffee or you'd like to buy me a pattern, that's always greatly appreciated. And yeah, I hope that you are having a great start to your month. I know that this month is one that can be both hard as well as joyful. I know it is for our family. You know, it's definitely not without its you know, sad moments. But you know, it is definitely a time for us to be together, and I hope that wherever you are, you're taking care of yourselves, your family, and each other. And I will see you next week in the next video. Bye.